In a world where deception runs deep and bodies drop without a trace, only the real survive. Some chase the truth, others bury it. But in the end, no secret stays hidden forever, because justice doesn't wait, and neither do we. Welcome to Survival of the Realest. The first gunshot shattered the quiet, sending pigeons flapping into the smog-choked night. The second turned a simple job into a death sentence. I crouched behind a dumpster, hands slick with sweat, ears ringing. Across the alley, under the sickly orange glow of a street lamp, Tommy Ricci, the golden boy of the Barone crime family, lay face down, blood pooling beneath him. The man standing over him holstered his gun and lit a cigarette like he hadn't just executed the boss's nephew. I recognized him immediately. Detective Ray Calder, dirty cop, Barone's personal hound dog. He glanced around, eyes slicing through the shadows, and for a second, I thought he saw me. My breath hitched. Then he turned, his leather soles clicking on wet pavement, and disappeared into the night. I should have kept my head down, walked away, let the storm pass over. But when you're low on the food chain, when your only skill is taking orders, you don't get the luxury of choices. The moment Tommy's blood hit the ground, my fate was sealed. Either the Baroness would find out I was there, or Calder would. And both options led to the same ending, a bullet in the back of the head. So I ran. By the time I reached my cousin's place in Red Hook, my lungs felt like they'd been sandpapered. Ricky took one look at me and swore. Jesus, Leo, what the hell did you do? I shoved past him, locking the door. Saw something I shouldn't have. Shit. He exhaled sharply, running a hand over his shaved head. Who? I hesitated. Saying it out loud made it real. Tommy. He's dead. Calder did it. Ricky blanched. You're screwed. Yeah, I muttered, sinking onto his ratty couch. Tell me something I don't know. By dawn, I had a burner phone, a stolen car, and a death wish. I drove aimlessly, paranoia chewing at my gut. It wasn't just my life on the line. Ricky had a kid. Ma still lived in the old neighborhood. If the Baroness thought I was talking, they'd make an example of my whole bloodline. There was only one way out. I called the only clean cop I knew. Detective Natalie Park picked up on the third ring. This better not be another attempt to cut a deal, Leo. I got something you'll want, I said. But we meet in public. And you're buying breakfast. We met at a diner off Atlantic. The kind of place where the coffee is burnt, the eggs are rubber, and nobody asks questions. She slid into the booth across from me, eyes sharp, fingers drumming against her badge. Talk. I leaned in. Calder killed Tommy Ricci. Her expression barely flickered. But I knew I just flipped her world upside down. Calder wasn't just any dirty cop. He was the Baroness insurance policy, the guy who made problems disappear. If he was turning on them, it meant the whole damn city was about to crack wide open. You're sure? She asked. I watched him do it. She sighed, rubbing her temples. Leo, do you have any idea what you've done? Yeah. I smirked, though my hands shook. Made myself the most wanted man in New York. The next 48 hours were a blur of safe houses, whispered threats, and cold sweats. Park kept me moving, but it didn't take a genius to figure out we were running out of places to hide. The Baroness wanted my head. Calder wanted my silence. And somewhere in the middle, someone was feeding them our location. It all came to a head in a warehouse in Queens. Park had set up a sting. Promised me protection in exchange for testifying. I should have known it was too easy. The moment we walked in, I smelled the setup. The air was thick with the scent of oil and decay. Shadows stretched long under flickering fluorescence. And then I saw him, Ricky, tied to a chair, bruised, bleeding, and standing over him, gun in hand, was Calder. You just couldn't leave it alone, could you, Leo? Calder sighed, like a disappointed parent. I gave you a chance to disappear. My fist clenched. Yeah, well, I got a thing about rats. Park stepped forward, gun drawn. It's over, Calder. We got you. He laughed. Actually laughed. You think the Baroness are going down over this? He shook his head. They'll bury this. Bury you. And I'll be back on the streets before your corpse is cold. I glanced at Ricky. He gave a slight nod, barely noticeable. But I knew what it meant. Move. I lunged. Ricky rocked his chair, throwing Calder off balance. The gun went off, an explosion in the hollow space. Park fired. Calder staggered back, eyes wide, clutching his stomach. He hit the ground hard, gasping like a fish out of water. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Ricky coughed. Next time, maybe don't wait so long. The aftermath was a blur of sirens, paperwork, and sleepless nights. Calder was dead. His ties to the Baroness were laid bare for the whole world to see. It wasn't enough to bring down the whole empire, but it was a start. Park got her case. Ricky got his kid back. And me? I got a one-way ticket out of town and a new name. As I stepped onto the bus, I took one last look at the city, the only home I'd ever known. It was still there, still breathing, still swallowing up men like me. But for the first time in my life, I wasn't drowning in it. I was finally free, or at least as free as a dead man can be.